What's up, guys? This video is the 3 stages of inner work. You'll hear about the inner child, you'll hear about doing shadow work, you hear about doing, um, you know, the, the inner work, as they say. Ultimately, I think that there's 3 stages that this gets broken down into. The first stage is unconscious identification. This is where we identify with things and we're not aware that we are identifying with it. It's essentially where the ego comes out. This is our lowest stage or level of consciousness. Consciousness just means awareness, and unconscious is unawareness. So the things that I am identified with and unaware that I am identified with. When we have really big emotions, we can often take on that emotion. Say you have fear, or you have anger, or sadness, or even joy, and happy. And it's like, this is who I am. I am a happy person, or I am a depressed person, or I have anxiety. We want to start to, in phase 1 of it, we want to start de-identifying with that. The second one is awareness and insight around these beliefs and these feelings that we have. And when you start to get the awareness and the insight with it, you start to realize, oh, this is a belief and a feeling that I have experienced in the past, and it's repeating now in the present moment. And it makes sense. Like, we want to give permission for our feelings and for our emotions to exist, for the beliefs to exist. And that's what's driving us. And most of us are unaware of what's actually driving us. In fact, in the next video, we'll go over the 3 levels of consciousness. I'll dive deeper into the science of that. So the third stage of doing the inner work is the relationship and the disidentification, meaning I now get to the point where it's like, this emotion is here and it is welcome here, but it's not who I am. Or this feeling, I have anxiety or I have depression, it's here, it's not who I am. It has permission to be here because I can hold it, and I have experience and know that it will soon pass. Those are essentially the 3 stages of doing the inner work. So let's break this down a little bit simpler. You can't just have awareness. Developing awareness of the things that you're not aware of isn't enough, because that's just intellectual insight. And it's really critical and it's really good, but it's not the whole thing. Most of us, like I said before, are unconscious of the patterns that are driving us. And you can see that, just look at any pattern that you have. Take a pattern in your life that you have and you wish you didn't have. This thing that just keeps repeating. Maybe you keep moving from job to job to job, or you keep not quite passing the test, or you're moving through relationships, like you found the perfect one and then you divorce again, and then you this just this pattern. Find a pattern. Maybe it's just getting upset at the kids when they do something and 99% of what they're doing is accurate, and then there's that one thing, and then you just keep like harboring on that one thing that they didn't get right, and you're like, man, this is a pattern in my life. Find any pattern in your life and just ask yourself, where is this coming from? Like, what's driving this behavior that is repeating, right? That's a pattern. So we live out the patterns that are shaped by our past trauma, and these experiences without even realizing it. And when we don't realize it, we start to get identified with it. Like, oh, I'm just a person who has anger issues, and I need anger management because I am an angry person, right? So now we're identifying with it, and we're not even realizing it. So these patterns are often totally invisible to us, and we want to start working on, like, identifying what that looks like, and then move into the second stage of, like, giving it permission to be here without any blame or shame. because the way to make it go away isn't to try to fix it and keep it out. It's actually to let it in. There's like a really cliche uh, term in higher conscious healing, and it how does it go? The only way out is through. And I went to some retreats that taught me this years ago, and I was like quite resistant to that. I was like, nope, the only way for me to get out of this shit is for the shit to go away. But we're co-creators in it, and we're being driven by these beliefs. And then we identify with these beliefs that we're totally unaware with. And then therefore those beliefs have to play out true in our life. Hence why pattern behaviors continue to be just that, patterns, like they're repeating, right? So there's like this emotional autopilot that's going on, and that autopilot is governing our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and we're kind of the passenger to whatever's happening inside of us. So I'll give you an example of this. You think that you're angry because of something your partner did today, but really you're re-experiencing an old wound from the past that hasn't healed, right? That's like a big thing to realize. Oh, it's not the other person's behavior, it's that their behavior is triggering a wound inside of me. Gabor Mate has a really great quote where he says, when you're triggered, what you have to realize is that you are the weapon, and when you're triggered, it goes boom, right? Well, how does a weapon function? There has to be a loaded magazine with bullets inside of that. And if you are the weapon, you're also the one carrying the loaded ammo inside of you. So it's going boom inside of you. That like that's what happens like with a gun, right? Or a rifle. You pull the trigger and it goes boom inside of the weapon, and then this projectile comes out and damages whatever it hits and whatever it touches. So those are all your responsibilities. But when we're unconsciously identified with these emotions and these feelings, and again, we're not even aware that it's happening, then we think it's about the other person. And there is no healing without awareness. So first thing is we have to identify that we are unaware that we're unaware. Second stage is that we are aware that we're unaware. And then we start getting more and more clear as that goes on. So the second phase is that having this intellectual insight does not mean that we're going to be liberated. It actually, this is a thing that Amy and I talk about a lot, is when you become aware of the things you're unaware of, you don't have the skills or the resources or the tools to then start shifting towards more conscious living, meaning all of a sudden I become aware that I have these big emotions, and then I erupt and they're actually mine, and it's going boom inside of me. Okay, so then the next time I go get triggered, I don't have any skills to be able to hold that emotion or sit with that emotion because I am conditioned to behave that way. But now I'm aware that I'm behaving that way. And that is a super rough stage to be in. It's like sucks. I think it's the worst stage because there's like awareness and then no skills and no awareness of where it's really coming from, what belief that's touching on, what perception is getting triggered. Remember, we always react to our worst case perception. I'm abandoned, I'm abused, I'm betrayed, I don't matter. These worst case scenarios from neutral experiences with our partners at work or at home or our kids. If you pan back and just look at it, you start to realize that wasn't actually like my son was just going to turn the light off, or he was just trying to do the dishes, like whatever the situation is, or my husband just walked in the door and he just was having a bad day. And then, I became uncontained within myself and it triggered something inside of me and it goes boom. And then I'm like, well, you should be coming home with a happy, I'm not the problem that you walked in the door with. Is that right? And so now we're in this defensive justification thing, and you can apply this to anywhere in your life. Again, in our one-on-one sessions, bring it to me. I'll help you be able to identify where it's at, and help you to make peace, to give permission for this to exist. But once you get some insight around this is like for me, it's been a really, really rough stage where I was like, healing sucks. The healing world is fucking retarded. And I don't know why anyone does this. And that's just because I didn't like have any mentors. Like I had tons of coaches and therapists and everything, but on the day to day, I was doing this alone, trying to figure out what my therapist said or what my mentor said, and trying to apply it in live time. And it's already gone boom inside of me. And when we get triggered inside of us, our prefrontal cortex, which is the curious, creative, reasoning mind, to be able to pause and slow down. Well, when you get triggered inside, all the blood shuts off to the prefrontal cortex. So you don't have that part of you don't have access to that. Everything kicks back to the survival brain, the limbic system, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so then we're now in a dysregulated state. We don't have access to the curious and willing prefrontal cortex to be able to pause things. And so it's happening in lifetime, and then I'm supposed to remember and get creative and be like, oh, I wonder what's happening. That in itself is a muscle to get triggered, be able to hold it, and then be able to pause it and keep the prefrontal cortex on. There's some videos and some courses that we'll go through on skills to be able to do that and build that muscle. But this is what's happening. And I see you over there like shaking your head like, oh shit, he's talking about me. This is humans, right? This is what it's like. For us. So insight alone doesn't liberate us. So you can understand your trauma, and you might have met people, or you might be this person. This was totally me. I actually began to understand my trauma, meaning I began to understand my wounds and the beliefs that had been created from that. And I had a lot of insight to that, and it didn't shift anything. I even started to understand where it came from and experiences that I had that had created that fractured, ruptured sense of self. And you don't even have to understand those to be able to heal it. But sometimes we get so much insight, and we get so much clarity that we do understand where it came from. And we have that moment that we can go back to, or you've done some somatic work, and then all of a sudden you remembered, and you're like, oh, it goes back all the way to when I was 5. That's not going to change anything. It's not even necessary to heal, but you might be one of the people that has a tremendous amount of insight. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be liberated from that, because as soon as it gets touched again, you're going to just run that pattern, that explosive boom that comes out. So again, the intellectual awareness, totally helpful, very necessary to have it. You don't have to go all the way back, but it doesn't dissolve the emotional charge. But we do have to make peace with the fact that when it goes boom inside of us, it's us that is having that loaded ammo that's in there, and it's us that hit the primer, and it's us that went boom. Go out to a shooting range and pick up a gun that's not loaded and pull the trigger as many times and see how many times it goes boom. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. So you're actually being triggered. Like, people are pulling your triggers all the time, and you're not even aware because it didn't go boom inside. But then someone does something little goofy, or someone does like pretty serious, and it goes boom inside. You're the one that's got the loaded ammo in there, and that is pointing you to where there's some healing and some work that needs to be done. Again, the one-on-one sessions are really designed around that. These videos are just help to kind of understand the basics of what's going on, so we don't have to waste our time on calls going over this. So let me give an example. You might realize you have a fear of abandonment because mother left you emotionally. She was emotionally unavailable when you were a kid. So now you've got this abandonment fear. And having that, right, that awareness is not going to, the intellectual awareness is not going to heal that. And that means that it's not, like when you get triggered, it means that panic is not going to go away. That panic is going to show up because that's the conditioned response or the conditioned reaction that's happening within you. So, and that will probably show up when like you sent the text and then they haven't texted back and it's been like 10 seconds. Right, and you're like, and you're getting that panic, or maybe it's been 10 minutes, or maybe it's, been an hour, and that's a little trigger that's inside that's just saying, hey, there might be a little bit of an abandonment wound there or a betrayal wound that's there. That's yours. People are allowed to like not have to respond to you instantaneously. But anyways, you get the point there. The third is where the real shift happened, this disidentification that starts to take place. This is when we can like actually start to observe it rather than identify with these emotions and these feelings. So what therapy is attempting to do is it's creating a space, like I was talking about with the retreats, between for you to be able to experience and observe this space between your feelings and your emotions. Now, your feelings are the sensations in your body, and your emotions are the combination of neurochemicals coming together to give you a message about the relationship that you have with yourself and how that is showing up with other people. Other videos and modules we'll dive deeper into that. But the goal isn't to get rid of the feelings that you're experiencing, nor is it to get rid of the emotions. The goal is to not let the feelings and the emotions be running your life on autopilot and then just expecting everyone to like have to walk on eggshells or dance around you. And trust me, like this was me. I'm talking to myself right now. I've walked this path. Now, the identification is the trap. It's when we're identifying with I am depressed or I am anxious. And so when people are suffering, they're fully identified with their story, the shame that's attached to that, the emotion that comes with it, and the beliefs. Now, these beliefs are subconscious and they're hidden. And what Dr. Bruce Lipton says is that they are like 98% of your beliefs are subconscious. They're conditioned into your nervous system and they are underneath your awareness. They're below your awareness. So you don't even know you have them. So that's why you can't figure out why you keep repeating the pattern. And they also call them blind spots. Blind spots are like the most human thing that you can have. So again, giving permission for those. So like beliefs would be like, I am unworthy, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, or I'm dumb in this kind of situation, or I'm worth not texting back, right? It's these I am statements. Now, when we start to go through the healing process, essentially healing is just disidentification. So it means, oh, here's this emotion again. Here's these feelings inside of my body again. It's something that's arising inside of me, and I can be with it without becoming it, right? So it can exist and I can not have to go boom or not have to be driven with it. That's when you know the healing is starting to actually take place, because you're allowing these feelings and emotions to be present with you, and they still suck. Like this still sucks. But when we look at little children and they get those feelings and those emotions, what do? They scream, they cry, they throw shit around, they have temper tantrums, and that's very, very appropriate for a child to do that. Most of us, when we get really triggered, we're like still adult children's, because nobody showed us how to hold it and how to sit with it. This is emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and emotional maturity. Those are three different things that are going with that. So this is also a spiritual process as well. Like when Buddha becomes awakened, right? That's what Buddha means, is like the awakened one. When Jesus becomes the Christ, right? This is post enlightenment for them, meaning it's not. The ideal is not that the feeling and the emotion doesn't show up, but that we're no longer at its mercy. So when the feeling and the emotion or the shame comes up, I believe that enlightenment, and I also got this from Gabor Mate, who taught me this in his compassionate inquiry course. Enlightenment is that it's not that shame isn't showing up, it's that when shame is here, you've invited that in so many times and been able to hold it, been able to befriend it without becoming it. So then you can say, oh, I can feel you, my old friend shame, or my old friend anger who wants to become angry. And thank you for showing up. I don't need to have you drive the ship. I can regulate my emotions. I have intelligence about what my emotions are telling me about this situation, and I have the maturity to go have a mature conversation with myself and then with others, where it's necessary. So the liberation that comes from therapy is not the absence of the emotion, nor is it of the feelings that come, but it's not being owned by it. Like I said, that's a muscle, and we're going to practice that muscle and go through that. So the 3 stages of inner work is there's the unconscious identification. We're not even aware that we're identifying with the feelings, the emotions, the beliefs. And then we start to have awareness and insight. That's like the big wrestle that happens inside because there's no skills or tools. And then you're just like, what the hell's the point of all of this? I now I'm aware of things I used to not be aware, and ignorance is bliss, right? And now we're in the pain and the wrestle of it, which is going to drive and motivate us to be able to develop the emotional and intelligence of our emotions, the ability to be emotionally regulated, doing somatic practices and containing ourself, and then being able to go have mature emotional appropriate conversations, regardless of how big it is inside of us. And then the third step is the relationships and the disidentification that we have with the feelings and the emotions. So the emotions here now, and it's allowed to be here. I give it permission to be here, but it's not who I am, and I can hold it, and it's going to pass. So hopefully this helps. And the purpose of therapy, well, it's really simple. It's to liberate us from these unconscious feelings and emotions that we are identified with and don't even know it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll have a PDF and some other resources down below. If you have any questions, just leave a comment in the comment box, and I'll see you on the next call.